Hi guys, I want to talk to you today about one of the fundamental principles of training. When I did my course to be a PT, this is one of the first things you learn, and actually even before I became a PT and when I was like just really into fitness, and I decided to kind of take it a little bit further and study a little bit of the background. I bought this book, which is like it's Personal Training Theory and Practice by James Crossley, and I read this cover to cover. It's like quite a kind of, it's very, very concise, it's very to the point, and just it kind of gave me some understanding, some background understanding of training and of the theory of training and the theory of exercise, because it's not just about burning calories. It's not just about getting your heart rate up. There's a whole like, and I think some people see it that way, and some people kind of, I have conversations with people who kind of, who think they know a lot about training, and who aren't trainers, some who are, but who think that it really just boils down to just getting your heart rate up, just burning calories. And they kind of look at trainers a bit like, what do you know? Like, there's not much to it. Just do exercise. The only reason why you're there, the only reason why PTs exist is to just kind of motivate people, because some people need the motivation to train. I disagree with that. I think that like how to train effectively. I mean, if you just get your heart rate up, you can just move around and move badly, and you'll be doing something. It's better than doing nothing. A really important concept of CrossFit is from least dangerous is moving with perfect form, and then slightly more dangerous than moving with perfect form is moving with less than perfect form, and then most dangerous is not moving. So yeah, it is important to move, it is important to get your heart rate up, but there's so much more to it. It's like sports theory, exercise science, sports science, such a fascinating topic, and there's so much to it. So I just wanted to like go back to basics a little bit, because from what one of the problems is that there's this disconnect between trainers learn all this amazing shit, and then people just who need trainers or who need to do exercise just think that it's about just getting your heart rate up and just about moving. And there's a disconnect there, and most trainers aren't communicating to people what it is they need to do, like the complexity of what it is they need to do and how to train effectively. So and many trainers are they just oversimplify it. They're just like, okay, you just need to get your heart rate up. I'm just there as a motivational tool, which is fine, and that also has a place. But there is also another area of training and another area of personal training and group training that's far more precise. And that's what I aim to do as a trainer. I do aim to motivate people as well, but it's not just about that. It's a lot more. There's a lot of thought that goes into proper training, the proper planning and properly making a program, whether it's for a class or for a group. So I just wanted to go back to basics today and go over one of the fundamental training principles. Now, there are 5 fundamental training principles that this is kind of 101 of becoming a trainer, and the first thing that you need to learn if you want to kind of delve deeper into how to become a trainer, or how to just do fitness, how to just train effectively. And they are specificity, individualization, progression, overload, and variation. And I want to talk about, well, really 2 of them, because they kind of go hand in hand, progression and overload. And it's quite often referred to as progressive overload, so they kind of go together. And this is often something that it's completely left out of women's training. Men are usually pretty good at progressively building up the weights and the intensity of their training, although they usually tend to overdo it. But women don't do it enough. They kind of take a 2-kilo dumbbell and do 100 reps, and then like the next week they take the same 2-kilo dumbbell, do the same 100 reps, and then they do that for a million years, and they wonder why they don't progress, why they don't get any stronger. Now, the concept of overload is that, let's split them up for a second. The concept of overload is that if you're here, okay, this is strength, this axis is strength, and you're here and you want to improve, so you have to apply the principle of overload. So you have to apply a training stimulus that is here, that's slightly above what you're capable of doing. And that's the same whether you want to train for strength, whether you want to train for endurance, whether you want to improve your aerobic capacity, your cardiovascular performance, or whether you want to I don't know, improve flexibility, for example. You know, all of the training, the principles of training, all of the components of fitness, you know, you have to apply overload in order to get better. So, for example, if you want to get more flexible, there's no point just stretching the muscle to its resting length. You know, you have to stretch it a little bit to where it feels kind of uncomfortable. But if you stretch it too far and it's painful and the muscle rips, then you're kind of not, you've just gone backwards. Okay, so overload is all about this sweet spot. Is about doing a little bit more than what you're comfortable with doing, but less than what causes damage. So if I wanted to apply that to strength, to improving strength, I would find a weight that is appropriate for a trainee coming in for the first time. So we might take squats and do squats with no weight. First of all, that was too easy. Let's add 2 kilos. That was too easy. Let's add 5. And it could be that for one person, doing squats with no weight is what is the appropriate amount of overload, because that's all they can cope with at this moment. And it's just slightly more than what feels comfortable for doing. And then someone else, you might need to add 60 kilos in order for it to be overloading them. But if I take an individual who we add 5 kilos to, we do full range of motion squats, they have perfect mobility, they move really well, they can do 15 and 15 air squats with no weight, feels great. Add 5 kilos, it still feels great. 10 kilos feels great. 12 kilos, now it's starting to get difficult. So this individual, we decided that 12 kilos is what is going to overload them a little bit. But if I give them 20 kilos or 30 kilos, then I'm going to hurt them. They're going to lose their form. It might hurt their knee. They might hurt their back. I won't necessarily hurt them, but I'm making them prone to injury, and they're likely to hurt themselves. The same with running. If you want to improve your endurance, and you at this point in time you're not fit, and you go for a 2-kilometer run, and 2 kilometers feels really easy, but 2.5 kilometers feels like quite hard. If you push and do 10 kilometers, then that's too much overload, and that's going to cause injury. So it's about finding the sweet spot. It's not just about going mental and like killing yourself. Because if you do 2.5 kilometers this week, next week you might do 3, and then 3.5. And that leads us into progression. So if I apply the principle of overload in each individual session, in that session will then, if you rest afterwards, and we have to go into more like sports science of of rest and recovery and supercompensation that I'll explain in a different video. But basically, when you apply a training stimulus, then after the training session, whether it's strength or whether it's aerobic endurance or whether it's flexibility, or maybe not so much flexibility, but you get what I mean. You're then weaker. The body's weaker, the muscle's weaker afterwards, and then as it recovers, it goes into what's called supercompensation, and it gets stronger. So if we apply that to strength, if you lift 15 kilos, then the next day you might feel a bit sore, you might not be able to apply as much force and with your muscles, and so then you go into what's called, then if you recover enough, you give yourself time to recover, you eat the right foods and you sleep properly, and you don't get drunk or do any stupid shit, then you're going to go into what's called supercompensation. You're going to be stronger. So when you come back to the next training session, you'll be stronger than you were before. So applying the same weight again is not gonna, or the same number of reps, or exactly the same training stimulus, you're not gonna move forwards. You're not gonna get stronger. So you have to apply a little bit more. So if we apply it to strength, you might add an extra kilo every time. If you train twice a week, you might add a kilo onto your squat every single week. And then at the end of the year, you've added 52 kilos onto your squat, but you've not felt that. It's not like adding 52 kilos right away. If you want to apply it to long distance, you could, long distance running, you could just add half a kilometer every single time. And that's progression. You know, you cope with the training stimulus, you adapt to the training stimulus. And then the next time you come back, you're at another level of fitness, of strength, of endurance. And so then you have to apply the principle of overload again to that training session. And then you adapt to that training stimulus. And then you have to apply overload again and adapt to that training stimulus. And it keeps going. And for beginners, it's linear. When you start to plateau, then you have to start getting really fancy with your training program. But let's just talk about beginners. You just will improve linearly, and this is so important. And very few people really get this, and most people just do the same exercise with the same weight and the same number of reps and the same number of sets for such a long time, and then they don't improve, and they don't get stronger, and they don't get thinner, and they don't burn fat, and they don't understand why. And this is why. Normally for women, this is why. And applying progressive overload is the most important aspect of training, in my opinion, and it should be the focus of every single training session. Or obviously taking into account how you're feeling on a particular day. If you're feeling ill, if you're feeling low, if you haven't slept so well, there's nothing wrong with just staying at the same level or even coming backwards a bit. Like, you have to listen to your body. But the aim of your training sessions over time should be to get stronger, to get fitter, to work harder, but just a little bit at a time. Because if you go too far, you end up injuring yourself, or you end up hurting yourself, you end up not being able to recover from the training stimulus. So this is what I apply with all of my trainees. This is what I apply to women after having a baby. This is what I apply to pregnant women. This is what I apply to all of the other amazing women that I train and come to my strength and conditioning class. And this is what I apply to myself. And this is how you should aim to train and build it up over a period of time, and not be like, right, tomorrow I'm starting my fitness journey and I'm gonna run like 10k and I'm gonna lift a load of weights, and then end up really hurting yourself and not being able to recover from it for 2 weeks, and then just falling off the wagon. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to post a series of videos like this explaining some of these training principles. And I hope that it resonates, and I hope that you learn something from it, and that you manage to, it changes the way you think a little bit about the way you're training at the gym. Let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to my page. Check out my Instagram and Facebook and all the other stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye.